Hi, everyone.
We are live.
Yes, I'm Sanam, Solati Yurczyk with New England Prestige Realty,
And I'm Kelly Turner with Total Mortgage.
and we are here to talk about
The current housing market. What is going on?
Yeah. So,
What are you seeing?
what I am noticing is that buyers are noticing a little bit more relief on, we've been dealing with a crazy frenzy, multiple offers where buyers have to strategize and do some insane things to secure properties that they fell in love with, and we're not seeing that as much. But it's still a very strong market. Inventory is still historically low.
It's low. There's not a lot out there, which, if you're a buyer, you're on Zillow waiting for those notifications to come in. You're on some sort of, realtor list waiting for stuff to come in. And you're like, there's not a lot of choices right now.
There's not a lot of choices. And so, it's a great time to buy though. Inventory is starting to increase a little bit, not a lot. What we're finding is a lot of sellers are all of a sudden like panic stricken that they've missed the market. And they haven't necessarily missed the market. Prices I think they're still in sellers' favor. Because in today's market right now, just in Hartford County, the average months of real estate supply is about 1.8 months worth of supply. And just to give everybody out there some perspective, a completely neutral, healthy market is about 6 months worth of inventory.
So yeah, and that sort of tells you that for sellers, there's still a lot of opportunity. And I will say, I'm a lender, so I work with buyers. That's my people. And we are seeing relief in that they don't necessarily have to make 20 offers before they get a house. They're making maybe 5, but the sellers are still able to be a little bit in control of the transactions. It's definitely still in the seller's favor, but it feels like things are kind of evening out and everyone's a little bit happier in the transactions.
It actually feels like it feels a lot healthier. Everybody who is hearing all the buzzwords on the news are like, oh my God, is the market going down? And I'm like, no, it's finally feeling like it's stabilizing. It finally feels like my poor buyer doesn't have to rush to see the house in the first minute because it's going to sell that day or within hours. They're still moving quickly, but we have a little bit more control.
Yeah, and buyers, I think, are able to do a little bit more due diligence, both on the lending side. So getting numbers, trying to figure out what a monthly payment's going to look like, making sure that the finances make sense for them. And then on your side, they're able to maybe see the house more than once.
Yes.
Or maybe, like you said, not have to, we've got 24 hours. And if we don't get in there, they're able to make slightly better decisions and in a little bit more of a relaxed amount of time. It's not weeks, my friends.
No,
it's not weeks.
No.
But maybe you've got 4 or 5 days before this house is going to go under contract. And I think that really just helps everybody feel a little bit more settled.
It really does, because nobody wants to have to make that rush decision. I mean, we had some people buy sight unseen because the minute the house went on the market, we would go in to put in a request and it was already booked within a half hour. Like, that was unbelievable. And then, now again, things are normalizing, which is beautiful. We're not in a neutral market by any means. But I feel like sellers are being a little bit more, the reasonable ones are awesome to work with because they understand what's happening with the market. They're listening to their agents. They're not being greedy with what they're
think they can get or what.
Yeah. And, when it comes to potential repairs that buyers might need just for health and basic health and safeties, like issues, like sellers are a little bit more flexible. And who doesn't want to walk away with a win-win situation? Because the past 2 years has not been a win-win.
Yeah, it has not been a win-win. And I think the other thing that is helping that a little bit as well is just people are realizing that what has happened the last 2 years is the anomaly.
Yes.
So, I have a lot of, again, working in lending, people are very concerned with interest rate. Well, rates were so low a year ago. They were. But let's all be honest, the rates were so low because we were in an unhealthy economic situation. It was not sustainable. Inflation that we're dealing with right now is the result of a lot of that. So we don't really want it. But it also was the anomaly. Those rates are not normal. And if we had continued on where 2019 rates were and the pandemic never happened, where we are right now, rate-wise, is probably around where we would have been.
Yeah.
So there's nothing crazy. The rates feel high for buyers who maybe were in the market a year or two ago. But in the grand scheme of housing, they're actually fairly comfortable. They're really not that high. And then, also thinking ahead for people, the borrowers who I had in 2018 and 2019 who were locking at maybe slightly higher interest rates, they all refied
Yes.
in 2020 and 2021. So your rate is not this permanent decision that you're making right now. It feels like it is because it's for 30 years and you're like, oh my gosh, 30 years. But the vast majority of borrowers refinance mortgages for lower rate or to lower their term. They refinance into a different product, sometimes to do things like drop mortgage insurance, maybe do repairs on the home, or they overpay their mortgage and pay it off early. So most people are not amortizing to that 30-year mark anyway. So I was telling Sanam earlier, there's this cheesy saying currently in mortgage world, and it's date the rate and marry the house. So if the payment works for you, but the house is really what you want, you're really better off getting into the house.
Absolutely. Say yes to the address.
Say yes to the address, get into the house, and then you can always refinance later on if rates drop. So because if you wait for rates to drop, then the market's going to get flooded with buyers again. Yeah. And the chance of you getting that house is going to go down.
Yeah. But also, who's staying in their house for 30 years?
No one.
Yeah.
No one.
So
7 years, I think, is the average currently. Yeah. People are staying in their house for 7 years.
And, we've talked about what's happened with the rental market too. The rental market is insane, and it makes a lot more financial sense for most people to get into real estate. We're actually seeing big investors from other states coming in and buying lots of property to hold on to.
Because they know.
What do they know that we don't know?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it does make you think about that rental market right now. And I have borrowers who have been living in rental properties for 2-3 years that all of a sudden are getting renewal notices. Your rent is going up $500. Your rent is going up $800. And I'm saying to them, you're paying $2,000 or $2,200 a month in rent. Can I get you into a nice house for that? I absolutely can.
With a fixed interest rate. So your payments. The only thing that could go up are like taxes, maybe insurance, but not like what we're seeing with the rental market.
Exactly. Yeah. The rental market is really, I was just reading a statistic that right now in Harford County, the price per square foot for renting and the price per square foot for owning, currently the rental price per square foot is about 25% higher than the owning price per square foot.
That's insane.
That's a big statistic. And especially, I often encourage like young adults, right, out there, because that's often kind of the initial expensive high-end apartment dwellers are like people in their mid-20s, early 30s. They have good jobs. They don't necessarily have families yet. They're renting at really high amounts.
Because there's all these luxury apartments that are like popping up everywhere.
Yeah, so they're renting at $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month. And I'm like, for $3,500 a month, I can get you a beautiful house, maybe with a pool, maybe with those luxury amenities. But even if you don't know where you're going to be in 10 years, you may have paid off 1/3 of a 30-year mortgage at that point.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Not to mention all the tax benefits of home ownership.
Exactly.
Not to mention that you have complete privacy. You're not going to have somebody knocking on your door. Hey, we need to check this. Hey, we need to do that. Absolutely. So I actually just helped a family into home ownership. They had zero intentions of buying a home, but then their rent that they've been at for multiple years increased dramatically. And that was after they were told that the seller was looking to sell the home. So they were maybe going to have 30 days to possibly be homeless. So, I'm glad for them because now they can actually enjoy all the perks of home ownership. But when you're a renter, you don't have a lot of control.
Yeah. So I think this market, all in all, there's a lot of really dramatic headlines. Yes. And if you're someone who I actually always look, all of us are Facebook dwellers, and you go to that news tab and all the stuff that pops up. It's Market Watch, it's Yahoo Finance, it's all of these websites, and they're all the market, the rates, housing, it's a housing bubble. And honestly, the facts just don't line up. If you were to look at the actual data as far as what this housing market looks like, we don't see a housing bubble. We don't see any of this, real emergent stuff. It's kind of all sensationalized headlines. I was reading one the other day that said something like, the vast majority of millennials can't manage to purchase their new home or their first home because of the market. And I was like, it's actually, first off, millennials, right? We're 40 guys, so don't hate on the millennials. We're 40 now. But the housing market is, I think a lot of the people who are not getting into the housing market are not getting into the housing market out of misinformation and fear as opposed to actual fact. So I really encourage people to get approved for a mortgage,
Yeah.
get qualified. Let's look at the numbers. Let's see if it makes sense. It doesn't make sense for everybody.
No.
And I think working with a good lender and a good realtor who will tell you like, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't the right time, or, you know, with your current job situation or where you need to live, you may want to wait another year or two to purchase. We'll tell you that. But for the vast majority of people, once I show them like, oh, this is what your monthly payment would be, and this is how much money you need to get into it, people are like, oh,
That's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I only need to put 3% down. Oh, I only need to put, there's programs where you don't just put any down.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, that's not so bad. It looks
Yeah.
a whole lot better than $3,000 a month in rent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there is a time and a place for rentals, but it's just a short-term solution.
Yep.
That's all it is. You know, I'm a big believer in home ownership. Why not build your own equity? I mean, it is the American dream, right? Home ownership.
Absolutely.
So if the numbers make sense and the timing makes sense, and that's when you want to make your move, right?
Absolutely.
And everybody's needs are different. Talking about the bubble and all that, like, I think that right now we've just kind of hit a different platform.
Yeah.
So like we're pretty stable. I don't see us really dropping much. And if anything, you know, we will see appreciation, not like we have over the past 2 years, because again, that was completely
That
unsustainable.
was the anomaly.
Yeah, but we will see appreciation over the years. So
Well, and that's the thing is historically we always have.
yeah,
And that's the hard thing that people have to keep their mind around is that even post the 2008 mortgage
Yeah.
crisis, which is not going to happen this time, that was for very different market
Right.
conditions. Those people's houses still have appreciated at this point.
absolutely.
Did it take time? Yes. That's how housing works.
Yeah.
But if they had stayed the course, those houses have appreciated, and we're going to see the exact same things. And again, what happened, because there's been a lot of comparisons in mortgage world.
Yeah.
So what happened in 2008 versus what happened now. What happened in 2008 was mortgage guidelines were very lax and people were getting into homes that they truly could not afford. Okay. So it didn't have really anything to do with home prices. It had to do with monthly affordability of homes. So people were foreclosing upon them because they really weren't qualified to buy those houses. Mortgages have swung in the complete opposite direction at this point, where if you're qualified for a mortgage, you can afford it. Mortgage guidelines are very strict. We have to check up on everything. We have to make sure literally every T is crossed, every I is dotted on a mortgage application. So people are getting into houses that they truly can afford, that make sense for their financial situation. So we are not going to see that glut of foreclosures like we saw last time.
I also feel like borrowers are a little smarter now.
Oh, much smarter.
Like back then, everybody was using their homes as ATMs.
Yep.
Pulling money out, sliding into arms that may not have made sense for them.
Yep.
And yeah, then when the market shifted, they were underwater.
Well, and that's the other piece of it too, is that the vast majority of borrowers are currently in either 30-year fixed rate mortgages
Yeah.
or some other term fixed rate mortgage. There
Yeah.
are very few arms in the market.
Yeah.
We have some borrowers picking up arms right now because of where rates are, but I think again, lenders are savvier too. And we're having a lot of conversations with borrowers about what is going to happen when this rate adjusts, and are you
Yeah.
prepared for that?
Yeah.
And because people just really need to be educated, and they weren't in 2008. People were in these adjustable rate. My rate was 1.99 and now it's a 7, and people just couldn't do it. But that's really not the case anymore.
No, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, guys, we are going to be putting on videos on a more consistent basis. And so if you have questions, or, if there's something you want to learn about, you can reach out to us directly. You can make comments and we can discuss it in our next video.
Absolutely.
So like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.